Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, has expressed unwavering support for ZANU-PF and President Mnangagwa's government, emphasizing Mnangagwa's right to chair SADC while disregarding the concerns of Zimbabweans. The prominent local leader, Dr. Bishop Nehemiah Mutendi of the Zion Christian Church, has called on Mnangagwa's government to fulfill its promise to leave no one behind. During a prayer session at the State House, Bishop Mutendi challenged Mnangagwa to take action on his promises and emphasized the need for strong prayers to make these aspirations a reality. Bishop Mutendi is considered a supporter of President Mnangagwa. Businessman Wignell Chiveyo, who was viewed by many as corrupt, especially those opposed to Mnangagwa, donated $1 million during Easter at Mbongo 1 in Bikita, Masvingo. This gesture was criticized by some in the media as an unholy offering, comparing it to the biblical abomination of offering earnings from prostitution, as referenced in the book of Deuteronomy. However, Pastor Ian Ndlovu, a prominent prophetic figure, argued that Chiveyo's offering was acceptable because he had repented. Mnangagwa's recent discussions about relocating the remains of war heroes who died in Mozambique and were never formally buried have been met with skepticism. Many Zimbabweans question whether this is a meaningful aspiration or merely empty rhetoric. The Heroes' Day celebrations, which should symbolize the strength and unity of the country, are seen by some as a ZANU-PF monopoly, excluding other political perspectives. There is frustration that decades after the liberation struggle, the same leaders who have remained in control continue to make promises about recovering the remains of fallen comrades without taking any concrete action. This has reopened old wounds for families who lost loved ones in the struggle and received little in return. Critics argue that by 2020, the focus should be on showcasing and developing the country for the benefit of all Zimbabweans, rather than making empty promises. Meanwhile, in Rwanda, President Paul Kagame announced plans to make Africa a unified tourism destination during the 23rd Global Summit of the World Travel and Tourism Council in Kigali. Kagame highlighted that 60% of tourists visiting Africa are from outside the continent and stated that Rwanda would become the fourth African country to remove travel restrictions for Africans, following Gambia, Benin, and Seychelles. Kenya's President William Ruto also announced plans to allow all Africans to travel to Kenya visa-free by December 31st. In Zimbabwe, former opposition leader of the Citizens Coalition for Change, Nelson Chamisa, criticized calls for Zimbabweans in South Africa to return home to vote, arguing that participating in the country's flawed elections is futile due to premeditated rigging. Chamisa's comments were in response to South African opposition activist Julius Malema, who had urged Zimbabweans living in South Africa to actively influence politics back home rather than remain passive. Chamisa highlighted the challenges faced by Zimbabweans, noting that many had left the country seeking better opportunities, and described the situation in Zimbabwe as dire, with a severely compromised electoral process. Chamisa also shared his personal story, reflecting on his humble beginnings in Gutu. He emphasized how his life is a testament to what God can do through ordinary people for His glory, drawing parallels with biblical figures like Moses, Daniel, David, and Jesus Christ, who was born in a manger. Chamisa expressed his belief that God is not yet done with Zimbabwe and that greater things are still to come, urging people to have faith that God will do mighty things in the land of the living.